is Harry's Place. The other time it was a religious store. I don't know what's going on with my recording. If you're not here for Gothic horror, you can head on out. No harm, no foul. Otherwise, we are going to start our panel. My name is Crystal Mazer. I am one of the co-hosts for Darker Days Radio. I'm also a freelance writer. I am going to be co-moderating this panel this year with my other two co-hosts from Darker Days Radio. If you want to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, hey, I'm Mike Andrew, host of Darker Days Radio. It's a podcast about horror role-playing games that's been going on for 15 years somehow. And I'm excited to be joined by Crystal and, of course, my other co-host over here.
We're outing you.
Audience. the audience plants that we have right here.
Hi, I'm Chigg. I'm also co-hosting this family, so please come in.
We're making you come up here.
Scoot over quick.
Hi, Crystal.
Hi.
Always my plan.
And then, so they're going to be co-moderating with me. Normally it's just me up here, but since they are at GenCon, I'm putting them to work. And then I also have amazing panelists, so I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and we're going to get going. So, anyone want to
Start that way, go this way?
start that way?
Okay, hey, I'm Brian Holland. I'm the marketing director at Chaos Scene, where we get to dream the dreams of dead gods and construct the world from its essential runes. I've also done work on Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition and some stuff with folks in Odysseus, and I've written some Call of Cthulhu stuff. So yeah, I love
And
horror.
you also did what last night?
I went to the
bathroom.
Bathroom.
Last night I won an ENnie award for Call of Cthulhu and went against the Static. So
My name is Nox. I'm the creative director at Hunters Entertainment. I'm a writer and creative, an artist from LA. I have a book that's coming through. It's a horror slasher RPG, and I'm very excited about it. You're going to hear more about it within the next month. And then I have some special promotional stuff that's coming out very soon that you're going to be able to download with a group called Compadre. They're doing some really fun things with some promotional video game tie-ins that I'm not allowed to talk about. So just watch my socials. There's stuff happening.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Rick Heinz. I write about sarcastic things and dead things. Namely, I did a whole novel series called The Seventh Age about bringing magic back in the world, but I also run Storytellers Forge Studios, where we tie like heavy metal and epic soundtracks into RPGs with massive tragic campaigns about death and the afterlife.
Hell yeah. Awesome. So thank you everyone for coming and being here. And so we are going to go right into Gothic horror. Wow, that was a really bad mistype. There's a reason I have an editor. Okay, so we're going to kind of talk about, we only have like an hour for this panel, by the way. It's not an hour and a half we have done. So we're going to kind of get right into all of this stuff because I want to also give you guys time to ask questions as well at the end. And so what I want to talk about is, like, for you guys, what is Gothic horror?
So, like, in like, okay, what you think, like, Vampire Hunter D is like one of my, even though it's like weird, wasteland apocalyptic style, the style of that, but besides my pointless rambling because the coffee isn't kicked in, Gothic horror to me is there's an elegance to the horror that you're having, because you have like splatterpunk and all the different types of horror genres and body horror and things like that. Gothic horror, you have that older setting, and the monsters can be horribly dark and violent and visceral, but there's a culture and a society that tries to maintain an air of civility, even though people are getting ripped to shreds down, the alleyway into the side.
Okay. What do you guys?
what do you know? What do you think? I don't know. I'm bad at defining things because putting things into boxes is one thing. I think when I think of Gothic horror, I think of horror that I suppose in some way evokes like a romance. I suppose I don't mean necessarily like romance between people, but more like a romantic vibe. I think Gothic horror to me, whether it's I often go straight to vampires, werewolves, and church steeples in my mind, and there's always it's horror with a particular type of emotion running through it. We'll probably go in there when we talk about things like vampire and werewolf later, right? But that's to me, it is a type of horror that evokes the strongest sense of place and sense of mood, I suppose, out of all the various subgenres of horror. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, again, it's like putting things in boxes is dangerous, I think, but I mean, there's been a long history of kind of like when you think about traditional Gothic horror, you're certainly thinking about a historical standpoint, something that has a Baroque sort of nuance to it. However, I think that it transcends that, and I mean, you know, horror and Gothic horror is more, I think, of a vibe, right? It has an emotional undercropping. There's a sense of dread. There's certainly an intellectual capacity that has to be infused into the story, and I think it reveals itself in ways that are more often than not centered around some sort of mystery, right? Like it's not an immediate understanding, and sometimes you never understand what the answer to it is.
I think just to kind of riff off of their 2 points, one of the interesting things about Gothic horror is that indeed it did come out of the kind of romantic literary tradition, but it was exploring a lot more about like the common man against insurmountable odds, exploring those old castles in Europe, and from there it's changed a lot as well. So that kind of comes into the vibes that you're talking about, because now much more we associate it with anti-heroes and supernatural creatures. So there's really a wide swath of Gothic fiction that exists. I'm going to probably explore that a bit today.
I think for me, Gothic horror is, you may have power and you may be scary, but there is always something that is more powerful and more scary and far more clever than you are. And there's an elegance to that.
Elegance is the word, yeah.
That I really enjoy playing around with.
I think that like word elegance is what, because everything that we said, like theme, mood, setting, all of that stuff is found in space horror, right? The horror has very traditional elements just as a foundational block of like writing and storytelling as a narrative anyway. But what makes it, you know, not space horror is that romantic or elegant type theme with that historical vibe to it. So otherwise, it's just horror there with more crosses.
Yeah.
Well, also it's like a metaphor, right? For the horrors in Gothic horror are bigger things in society that are pressing down on you. Doesn't matter where you are in that society, there's always something above you pressing.
Can you guys hear him back there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, no. Maybe.
No in the back. They can't hear you.
Apologies. It's a metaphor for society pressing down on you. It doesn't matter where in the strata of the society you might be, there's always something bigger and worse than you that is keeping you down and in your place. So.
I mean, that's very similar to cyberpunk, just in a general thing. Which is funny is Gothic horror and steampunk usually are seen side by side, even though steampunk, you know, as a literary genre, is about hope and discovery.
Yeah. On Goodreads, I was reading reviews of Anno Dracula, which is a Gothic horror novel by Kim Newman, and people were giving it like 1-star reviews, like this is the worst steampunk novel I've ever read.
Well, technically.
Well,
Is that Kim Newman who wrote Beasts in Velvet?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, the Warhammer novel.
That's talking about Gothic horror. That's what I'm trying to.
It is.
Yeah. It's classic.
So then what I want to talk about is like some of the themes within Gothic horror, and like what do you feel is the important themes? What do you feel are themes that are often forgotten about, maybe?
As much of a disruptor as I enjoy being, can I make a suggestion? We have like 15 minutes with Brian, right?
Well, something like that.
Something like that? Could we do like 15 minutes of like any award-winning Brian's brain?
Yeah,
Let's not
absolutely.
Any award-winning brain's tied.
We're here to
I
be
didn't prepare
entertaining.
anything.
It could be bad.
We're gonna all just stare at you.
Yeah, what, you want me to
Okay,
vamp?
here we go, and start.
What am I talking about?
What do you want to talk about?
Gothic.
Gothic horror.
Themes.
Gothic horror.
Themes within Gothic horror.
Themes within Gothic horror.
this is awful. This is putting me on the spot. I don't know. It's like I mean, look, I work for Chaos and we make Call of Cthulhu. I come in and don't know if I've ever told this story. There's two weird things about me. I've never played a game of Dungeons and Dragons, but I've played a lot of Pathfinder. I've heard it the same. But my first game, because a lot of people assume, I think a lot of people's first game was Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
My very first game was Vampire, the Requiem.
Wow.
No,
Yeah,
not the same.
no,
Not the same.
People are like, yeah. And Vampire the Requiem, it cops a bit of flack from people who, prefer Masquerade. I love Masquerade too, but I always have a love for Requiem because it introduced me, one, into the hobby, but in a lot of ways into horror itself. And Requiem bills itself as a modern Gothic storytelling game. You're familiar with this book, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I think when I was a teenager in high school, reading that book and basically consuming at a base level for me this interpretation of modern Gothicism, and internalizing it to the point where it's just become, like, for me, is that's what I'm saying, and I think a hard time putting things into boxes, because so much of what I like about horror was fed into me via, like, that particular book, and that line, and then I obviously go back and then I discover things like, Masquerade and everything like that, right? So, one of the things I found most intriguing about exploring horror through that vibe was sort of like what you were talking about before. Like, there was always something more dreadful than what else that you couldn't contemplate or understand, and that's when we feed into Call of Cthulhu, right? Because Call of Cthulhu is like, I thought about. I'm sorry, I missed your first name.
Rick.
Rick, it was Rick. Okay, yeah. What you were saying about how, like, the original origins are from people exploring, would you say, like, old castles and stuff in Europe, right? Oh, is that? Oh, pardon me. It's a blur of dudes down here.
Probably.
Sorry. Yeah. And that's when you said that, I'm like, well, that's like Call of Cthulhu in a nutshell, right? Because it's just like a single person against an unknowable dark. And I think that if you, depending on how you play Call of Cthulhu, you have that same level of, again, when I say romanticism, I don't necessarily mean romance between two people. It's like it is
You mean the movement?
a
more than
movement,
anything
like
else.
a sense of, like an elegance that is sort of there behind you. I can't just vamp like this.
So actually,
I think you're doing great.
Please. jump in. I
okay,
need
question.
to.
So when you're making and you're writing, do you do more of the writing?
So I'm the marketing director. I've written a few Call of Cthulhu things that are still unpublished, as in they're not out yet. But for instance, the Alone Against the Static is a Call of Cthulhu. It's one of the solo single player scenarios. So it's like a choose your own adventure style game where you still play the game, like when you choose, you make choices, and sometimes those choices will also involve a dice roll, and you can spend luck. So it's just like a solo game, and but what makes it do what I think makes it different is that it's set in the 1990s. You choose to play at the beginning either the husband or the wife of this couple who are in a tumultuous part of their relationship in the 1990s, and they've decided to take a weekend away to try and sort of reconnect, and they've rented a secluded cabin in the middle of the Dakota Black Hills, and hopefully nothing bad happens, right? But I got a lot of negative reviews at the start when it first came out, which I was honestly expecting, because people were saying, wow, this is so slow. If I wanted to role play having a conversation with my wife, I could stay at home. Like, and I was clearly like, that's cool, that's not for you, right? Because it's intentionally slow, because I wanted to, through the medium of horror, explore, not just the horror of the untamed wild out in, like, an ancient place like the Black Hills, but, the horror of grief and broken hearts, and, if you've connected with somebody, and that connection is fraying, can it be repaired, and should it be repaired, right? So I don't even know what you asked me. I'm just what do I think? When I'm thinking about Call of Cthulhu, that's the kind of thing I like to think about.
And that's
right?
actually great, especially when you talk about building that attachment, and knowing about that, and even so marketing and what you have to do with that is whatever is created, and published through, you have to figure out how to mood, sell that, convince people to try it, try something new, because not everybody starts with, most people start with D&D. You and I are very similar in that, nope, we started off all the way over here in a whole different,
What did you start with?
Wraith the Oblivion.
Oh, well, all right.
That's deep cut.
Yes, yeah.
So, but when, I was gonna ask, when you think about Gothic horror, what music do you associate with it? Because that is, I think, something that, like, we all, like, there's an aesthetic with it.
This is extremely specific and very niche. Does anyone know who Andre Rio is? Like, he's like this Austrian guy with hair like this, and he's a violinist, and he does these concerts that people in their 70s go to, right? And my old man is 90-something, and he loves watching this guy. But there's one particular bit where he introduces, like, hey, I was contacted by this Hollywood actor who wrote a waltz and never had it performed. I'm going to perform it for you right now. And it turns out Anthony Hopkins,
it was Anthony
Academy
Hopkins.
Award-winning Tony
It's
Hopkins.
a gorgeous piece.
Yeah, wrote a piece called "And the Waltz Goes On," and it is specifically that waltz is what I'm thinking of when I think about Gothic horror. Look it up on YouTube, "And the Waltz Goes On."
Oh yeah, this is going to be
Anthony
things
Hopkins.
I am not
It's a great
familiar
piece.
with this.
It's really, and it's a
it's
beautiful
beautiful.
piece. Yeah. And if you just close your eyes, it's like let it wash over you, because it is a waltz, but it has these movements, and it evokes what, like I say, it evokes a sense of place and a sense of mood.
So with that in mind, with that like thinking about that song, what's your favorite part about your job that you get to do with kids? Like what?
About that song with my job,
Well, just like
We do it all the
you're if you're like doing what you do, which is figuring out how to get your stuff out into the world, right? But if you started off in high school reading, Vampire, Requiem, and thinking about the Sanctum and everything like that, what to then now, hi, congratulations, you're part of an award-winning team, right? What's your favorite part about your job and do? That's totally putting you on the spotlight. I see the saucers.
Yeah, the saucers are right.
Be careful what you say.
My favorite
We are
part
recording.
is working with Simeon Cogswell.
Yeah.
Because they are the best layout artists who's never actually laid out anything I've done. So
Or any
Intentionally so.
Like,
Intentionally.
I go.
Like the favorite. You asked me the best part of my job is.
Yeah, what do you like do?
What
what's
I
your
like
favorite
is
part?
I get to work in an industry where people can work in this extremely unique storytelling medium, and at Chaosium it is an extremely unique storytelling medium with what, for my money, is probably the best horror game. And I don't say best because I think it's better than Vampire. What I say it's best because it is so broad. Like I said, you can do the 1920 stuff, you can do Wild West stuff, and you can do 1990s to a couple in a tumultuous relationship, all in the same game. You don't have to hack it. So I think that's like my worst day at work now is better than the average day of when I was managing a Ralph Lauren store.
That's a
Right?
good
Okay.
one.
So that's a good.
Yeah.
You gotta think about that.
So it's theme, it's tone,
Yeah,
everything,
it's
being
everything
able
we
to
get to
create
do.
all that
Yeah.
through there.
I mean, you just got to give away like novels, right? And
that's
there's
cool.
other
Yeah.
mediums and other parts
Yeah.
that like everybody in this room is familiar with Chaos and Games, right? Okay, just checking. But yeah, there's so many like tie-ins that you get to have to set all of your
Very lucky.
mood
I've done a very
and.
good job. I hope nothing happens to the company. I'm otherwise unemployed.
It's been around for a little while. I think it's
exactly
okay.
right. 50
I think
years
it's
next
okay.
year.
Yeah. 50 years?
We are 1 year younger than D&D. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, wait,
I don't think I
that's
knew
actually
that.
cool.
For
Yeah,
some
so
reason,
I think technically
didn't click.
Chaosium is the longest continuing publisher.
Yeah.
Because TSR's not
Yeah,
really
they're
around.
not here. Rest in peace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
rip.
Yeah. But
Anyway,
good for Chaos.
Yeah, stop talking to me because everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
It's like everyone else is about to
Now you
talk.
got like 4 more minutes.
See, that's not true though. And I'm not doing this, I know that makes you uncomfortable. You're probably gonna chew me out later. But I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for them.
Oh,
They
well, I
came
appreciate
to
that.
hear a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
about what you do, and you're gonna be gone in a minute.
Okay.
And they can hear us blabber on. I'll go for another 2 hours.
Okay, good, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Ask questions for Brian.
I
'cause-
don't, if you got a question for someone else, that's fine.
The point about music. So, in terms of horror, what do you guys when you're doing your RPGs and stuff? Do you have background music? And what kind is it?
Oh, yeah.
You guys use?
Like I guess onto Sirenscape.
So, I not only have playlists for everything. I just finished The Crow, RPG for like James O'Barr. You know, I listened to that entire soundtrack on repeat for the.
I mean, that's one of the best
1994
soundtracks ever made.
Yeah, I grew up on it, but like that thing was just on repeat to go.
Yeah,
but
So not
No.
for the new movie. Okay.
Gothic horror.
Particularly one of the projects that Crystal got to write on was the Black Ballad, right? And it's this whole adventure in the afterlife and purgatory, and it does have some Gothic horror elements to it because when you die, you get to come back, but you start losing memories and slowly start becoming a bit of more of a ghost as every time you die. I always put music into all of my game projects. And so for this one, we got the Budapest Scoring Symphonic Orchestra and the heavy metal band Dia Morte and Riot Games to write a full 10-track Gothic horror orchestral album for mood music for the storytellers, when you're playing it. And then the actual metal album with the lyrics comes out in October. But I can't write without music. I always need to have music of every type for every character and every vibe, and I always storytell with music, so that's why I made them such a huge part of the games and projects I work on.
I use a lot of ambient. It's not even really music, right? Like I'll find like weird like background noises or like the sound of a forest in the middle of nowhere with like rain.
Like a busy diner or something like that.
Busy diner, I've
Yeah,
done that
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
things like that, kind of like, because if something has lyrics, it usually kind of steers me off. So like sometimes classical music or something like that would fit better, or something that's just instrumental. Movie soundtracks are really great for that. It just kind of depends on the mood of the stuff. But movie soundtracks are really good for writing.
The cinematic masterpiece from 1994, Interview with the Vampire. That's a great,
That's
soundtrack.
very Gothic, yes.
When you talk about the lyrics, I kind of chuckle. I listen to a lot of foreign music in languages I can't understand.
Yeah.
Also, death metal.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, I mean,
That's not words.
yes.
Every single vampire book that I wrote on, I would binge listen to the Succubus Club soundtrack.
Okay. Oh God, I remember those.
It's on YouTube if you can't find it, but I still have my CD. But that's just to get me like my brain into the whole like 90s vibe for Gothic horror that vampire is. But I do have a YouTube playlist for Black Ballad. You can actually Google or go onto YouTube and find it. It's public. That I listened to while I was writing my sections for the Black Ballad. I have a playlist for every single project that I have worked on, including Never Going Home and stuff like that.
So outside of running specifically, if you're actually running a Gothic horror game, when do you like to use music and how do you like it? Do you want it just running through all the time, or is there more specific usage that's kind of highlighted for you?
You gotta take off soon, so
I'm
you
gonna
answer
go
that
right
question.
now. Sorry,
first.
too bad. No.
We'll never know.
Yeah, you'll never know.
Next year.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Really
no,
sorry
thank
to
you,
go.
thank you,
No,
and
thank you, Brian.
congratulations.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Oh yeah,
So-
thank you. I'll see you all probably tonight.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right.
Hopefully see you.
See you tonight.
Thank you,
Brian.
Thank you for coming to the room.
We're gonna get really quiet.
Round of
Just
applause
start.
while he walks out.
Yay!
So, what kind of music do we storytell, or how do we use Gothic music?
You've story told during concerts,
Yes.
so.
What?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I have run games during like live concerts.
Like at the concert?
Yeah, because like the band in question was playing stuff that was super thematic. What we were doing, we were like we were in a room over. That was a whole different thing. But during actual games at home with music, I am all about using setting to evoke horror, and so I use music that in Gothic horror games sounds the same. It's waltzy, it's romantic, it's got that particular bit and whatnot, and it's always just on repeat, right? The same songs on repeat all the time for all of the scenes in your regular London underground streetwalk lives, your court sessions, things like that. And the playlist goes on, but when the bad thing happens, either switch to the creepy static white noise or
Like
just
that.
pure silence.
Good timing.
Yep.
That's very good time. That is the train, by the way, not.
You couldn't have planned that better, honestly. Welcome to the liminal space. Now when you leave, you're in the back room.
Oh God.
I love it. That is just way. Yeah. What do you use for?
Specifically for writing or for gameplay?
For
Are we talking about gameplay now?
Gameplay now.
Yeah. So I am. I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna say this we talked about this in the music
Yeah.
podcast. I am an amateur DJ. I'm gonna underline amateur. However, I have found that again, taking really good sounds. Like I want to record this right now and take it into something. But like I'll record things or I'll make things on GarageBand or something like that, some free software. You can kind of like distort the sound of your own voice and like whisper and then put it into a track. And then you can take your waltz or something like that, layer that on top of that, and then have those whispers slowly build up so that you know you're kind of timing where it is doing the loop that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But then you switch over and it's the same song. So it feels like the loop is continuing, right? But inside of the new song, it is already doing everything for you, so you don't have to be distracted with trying to control stuff. But with a Stream Deck and a little bit of technology, you can actually program an entire soundscape that you're controlling for horror. And for me at least, I nerd out on trying to figure out like, okay, how can we get as close to some of these moments where you really can grip people at a table? Tone and pacing and all that does that. But if you can add more senses to it, if you can get the music and the soundscape correct, you can really kind of control people's expectations, and especially with the way that you pace yourself, the way that you make a delivery, and then what you're doing as a narrator becomes part of that soundtrack, right? And so you have to know when to pause and just kind of play with it.
I am so freaking jealous that you get to have that. Like, I love that skill set. I would love to like play around with that.
I
kind of
promise
stuff.
you anybody can do it. It's just a matter of like spending a little time with the tools available.
I am a classically trained musician, and so I love looking at classical pieces that may have some theory or other things behind them. One of the best, like coolest things that I have found is there is a piece called Der Erlkönig, which is the Earl King or the Elf King, and it is essentially a father and a son singing, and the son is like, I see the Elf King, and in German folklore, the Elf King comes and takes away the dead, and so the son is seeing the Elven King. And the father's trying to outrun the Elven King on this horse to save his son. And in the end, the son is saying like, oh, he's taking me into his arms. And then at the end, the son is dead. But it's all in German. And so you really actually don't know, like, unless you know German, you really don't know what they're singing about. But that's something that you can throw on in the background and when players ask about it, you can just kind of give them the hint of, hey, it's this, look up the lyrics for it, and let them figure it out on their own and put together those pieces in their own head, and then you're laying the track work for them to figure out certain things that are happening. Like, you could have an Elven King that's in your story, and you want him to be scary, so you throw that in. You tell them to look up the lyrics that are in English, and they slowly realize what exactly they're seeing when they see the Elven King, and they're like, oh, that's not good.
And if you've got Apple Music, you can get the karaoke lyrics or karaoke track for all kinds of modern songs.
Yep.
Which means no lyrics at all, right? And you can use those in your games, and they're not as distracting, but you can still get the vibe of like a song that you want to use.
Okay. So we actually kind of skipped over themes, so I'm going to circle back around that. And let's talk about some of the themes within Gothic horror, some of the stuff that may be overused or underused, or stuff that you love using in your games.
I think you can take something that's really tired and make it new again. I think it's all like that cyclical thing where something gets kind of beaten to death, and it's like zombies, right? Let's talk about the zombie genre. it comes, it goes, and very much like a zombie, it never dies. If you use a theme and you can use it in a fresh way or find a twist to it, it's about what you put around it, right? The set dressing around whatever that theme is and how you use it. It's like being mad at hammers for hitting nails, right? The specific themes though with Gothic horror, I think, is loss, fear of the unknown, desperation. But I mean, this is so broad. I mean, it's like how many stories of loss can we tell?
Yeah.
Because if we couldn't collectively, I think we would have been done about 1,000 years ago, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, that was it. Humanity, I guess we're gonna move on. Gothic horror, bye-bye.
We haven't even gotten to written stories at that point.
Well, okay.
It's all-
So I'm
but
not
yeah.
a historian, but
So I guess for me, with like Gothic horror themes specifically, if I'm going to write Gothic horror, I'm definitely going to play up the culture of civility, right? I'm going to make sure that there's always a society, there's always something to do with this air of everything is okay, everything has this proper place, there's a place for everything in the world, just so that when people start deviating from their cultural norm and exploring the forbidden or the hidden, whether they be villainous or because they're trapped in said, I love this, trapped in the environment with, you know, the monsters, the supernatural, whatever the big bad is. I always want them to come back from the theme of you go, you explore, maybe you survive, and you come back, and now your view on society is different. But without setting up that society and that oppressive level of here is culture and what is expected to be normal, you can't show society from the character's point of view first after they come back from their horrific event. And in Gothic horror, I think you need that, because otherwise, I mean, that applies to like space horror and, you know, splatterpunk and other things, but nowhere near as much. You don't come back in space like to Earth, right? Usually you're back on your spaceship and things are happening. Urban fantasy and, you know, urban horror is literally just about getting lost in that world. Gothic horror, you get to come back and realize that all of the society, the pomp, the circumstance, the waltzes, the romance of culture is bullshit, because you are irrevocably changed by whatever you barely survived or have become. I mean, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde,
Yeah.
and you know, Dorian Gray, all of that stuff is full of Gothic horror.
Yeah. So riffing off of what Nox said earlier and what Rick is saying right now, I think a very applicable theme to use for Gothic horror RPGs is just secrets. Secrets. That can be part of the mystery, or it could be secrets that kind of unfold that you didn't even realize were there. But if you look back to like the very early Gothic fiction, for example, Castle of Otranto, which is usually considered the first novel, that's all about secrets, and it's kind of this hero who stumbles into them. That could be secrets about the castle implications, but that also could very much be the secrets about the people around you in the games. So I think if you're writing a chronicle for World of Darkness, or trying to do a Gothic fantasy game, I think just writing as many secrets down as you can, which people might stumble across, would be great. And it gives you a lot of ammunition to kind of keep the game going as well.
layering mystery, you know, and like even if things are red herrings and people seem suspicious and all that, I mean, the more that you put that in there, you're building the tone with it, you know. The rat catcher down the street keeps showing up. Seems insidious. What are you gonna do, you know? There's a veneer, to riff off of this earlier though, there's like society is a veneer, and once you break past it, there is an unspeakable bestial nature that humanity holds, but also the unknown, you know, emptiness of the void is waiting to swallow us all. It's that precipice where everything ends, and you know that there's no turning back from, right? So once you get, but it's about that veneer, I think, with Gothic horror. It has to be gilded and almost, you know, beautiful, because it's a fallacy.
I think one of the things that I really like to use in Gothic settings is the fact that sometimes there is no right choice, and you have to make the choice that you need to make in the time, and a lot of times it goes against the societal accepted culture that's it, whatever you're playing in, and so you did what you needed to survive, but now everybody is angry with you because you went against what they consider to be the norm. And now you have to not only deal with the consequences of your own actions, but now you know that there are other things out there that you cannot handle. And what does that mean when it comes to going further, especially if you get kicked out of your society and now you're out there without any protections?
Knowledge with sacrifice, right?
Yep.
And so what are you sacrificing? It could be your sanity, it could be a loved one, it could be your own body, it could be anything, you know, that is dear to you.
Yeah, or you go along with the horror of society, and then your place in society is what is horrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like just the Camarilla as a whole.
Yeah.
What? No, they're the good guys.
Okay. And then when it comes to making a Gothic horror game and not deviating too far into slapstick or, you know, anything else, or even like sci-fi horror, generally I always recommend doing like a session 0 and setting expectations. But I wanted to talk about, like, as both a player and a GM, how do you keep to those themes? Even like as a player, just kind of knowing, like, out in the back of your head, oh, this is a Gothic horror game, I probably shouldn't be doing something too wacky.
Yeah. So I think humor is good in horror, and I think that even Gothic horror can have humor and have it work really well for you. I just feel that if you're running the game and you set expectations and people are cracking wise and making jokes and things like that, just stare at them for 5 solid minutes. Just don't say a word and stare at them until everything breaks, and then bring it back in. But honestly, that's not a real answer. The truth of the matter is that you can't really, you know, if people are having fun, the game is fun. But as far as themes go, if you set it up, people are going to follow the tone. If you've got the right players at the table and they're in it for the horror, they're going to want the horror. We put ourselves in that place. It's like when you walk into a haunted house knowing that you're going to be scared, you want to be scared. You're putting yourself out there so that you can get that thrill. You know, I guess it's like if you're going to go onto a roller coaster and close your eyes, and, like, you know, some people do, and they do that, and that's okay, but it's like you want to experience it, so you're not going to, you know, try to break that experience, you know, bringing the wrong kind of energy into it, and, you know, just have a clear talk with your players if it is a problem. And if you are the player being a jokester, make sure that you're trying to keep it thematic. Like if you're the crazy person, you know, or like if you're nuts and you just escaped from a mental institution, and that's the character you're playing within a trope of, you know, Gothic horror, then that can be funny. But you know, not to make fun of people with mental illness or anything like that, and that make sure it's respectful. But the things that are coming out are disjointed, and that alone is going to create humor. If you have an NPC that is saying things that doesn't make sense and is coming at inappropriate times, sometimes that creates a release and a laugh. But that can be used to build better horror and better tension down the road.
I think, as an example of that, X from LA by Night is a fantastic
Xander is
example.
a hack, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my best friends. I should say that. It's because not everybody in the room does it.
So with me, when you get your groups, it's very much the same thing. Everybody at the table is there for horror, right? How do you hold down to the theme for Gothic horror, though? I'll do the session 0s. I do the normal stuff. Everybody at my tables knows what's going on. But if I'm at a convention and I don't know the people that are sitting down, or I'm doing like RPG in a castle, right, and it's supposed to be meant to be horror, but players, I don't know the people ahead of time very well. My trick is I have them do their character sheets with quills and calligraphy pens. The reason why it's a tactile sensation and just something that is not even related to the game, but yet they're writing something down, starts getting them subtly in the mind of this is a Gothic horror game, and then next thing you know, the rest of the game just carries on kind of like you would expect. And I haven't really run into many problems with people. And then everybody really asks if they can keep the feather pens afterwards. And yes, you can.
You guys have any other questions? No? Okay. So then let's talk about some of the games two that really invoke Gothic horror. We've mentioned Vampire the Requiem and Vampire the Masquerade. Those are two big ones. Call of Cthulhu is another one. And I have a list here, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to talk about games that you enjoy that invoke Gothic horror. And this can include games that you are making or writing or anything like that too. That's totally fine. So.
Do you want to go first?
Oh, I'm trying to think of which. Well, I'm trying to think if I don't think I can talk about one.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you have my permission. Go right ahead.
Yeah,
That's how it works.
No, I can't talk about that one.
I can talk about something that is not necessarily book related, but I know some of the folks in this room have done this before. I'm involved with a group now that's doing Vampire the Masquerade LARPing called Darkness Emergent. They've been setting up LARP experiences across the United States currently, and the great thing that they're doing is they're picking different locations and kind of making it a destination LARP. So finding really cool places. They did one in San Antonio. We just did one in Chicago, like downtown Chicago.
Wait, what? I can get it. How do I find out about this?
You go to darknessemergent.com, I believe. Is that right, Matt? Is that? I think it's darknessemergent. I think it's darknessemergent.com. And if you need more information, I can give it to you later. But it's a really engaging experience that has been something that I've been able to contribute to recently, and kind of offer new ways to kind of explore the rule sets and the things that are offered up, especially by the different historical contexts of each area, right? And try to dig out what the specific storylines and horror might be within that area. The next one is going to be in Las Vegas, so that's going to be very interesting. But I think it's also going to open up some interesting avenues to try to explore, like, what does that mean? So, like, how do you do Gothic horror in a casino? You know, like, I think it's really possible.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
There are a lot of elements that have, like, that veneer that we were talking about, right? That glitzy showmanship, kind of open, glamorous facade that's about 2 inches deep, and then right underneath it is a cesspool, you know? So that's the next one. Eventually we're going to be in Los Angeles too. But I've been spending a lot of time specifically working on that, and writing stuff for our Outbreak Undead 3rd edition that's coming out. If you like zombie horror survival apocalypse, not quite Gothic horror, it's more gritty post-apocalyptic stuff, but I do feel like some of the pacing elements and some of the tonal things are very similar.
Nice.
And the slasher system, which is going to be a very traditional 80s style game where you're playing multiple characters for obvious reasons.
So I got my stuff now, and I also realized
Yeah, there
I
you go.
totally.
I hope I bought
Yeah,
you some time.
you did, and I also totally need to be like, hi, we need to meet
Yeah,
later.
no, let's do it,
more.
let's do it.
So I actually love Wraith the Oblivion. It was one of my favorite games. For a genre to actually play in Gothic horror, you can totally do this whole Stygian thing, and then or back up with London and Underground. The other RPG, if you really just want to try a great one-shot horror game, try 10 Candles. It's absolutely amazing. You know, horror by candlelight already kind of fits right the genre. For projects that I'm working on, we have the Black Ballad already done, and our next project is Chronicles of the Crossing. And what we did is we have 4 full novels, everything from memory thieving, adventures to necromantic heists, or a little bit of love-torn romance, all coming out in October. But on the Gothic horror vibe, I'm back to the Red Opera. So we had this project called the Red Opera, Last Days of the Warlock, and that is, here's your, almost Ravenloft-esque city where warlocks and patrons walk openly in the streets. And in about a week, Crystal is going to get an email to come back and work on a very specific thing called Forsaken Pacts. And we're writing a detective story where you, as players, are going to be sent by these patrons to go after warlocks who haven't paid their debt. And each one's going to have its own mystery and detective case in the streets of Yankov, where you are now functionally the patrons, like leg breakers, to go after the warlocks who never paid their debts. And hopefully to put the fear of mind in any warlock player in D&D that's like, oh yeah, your patron's real. You actually got to pony up for that power. But we're going to put a lot of contracts and tarot decks in the deck for the theme and how you actually play And by having the tarot decks go into the game is my tactile immersion sense. That's the one I can totally talk about.
Yeah. I used to love the old Ravenloft box set. It had the Taroka deck in it, you know, and it added so much to the game. And then they released another supplement that had this fortune-telling dice system, where they were very pictorial dice, which was brand new. They were like stickers. I'm aging myself here, but they had stickers on them, and there weren't a lot of like pictorial dice at that time. And it's just like there are so many things that you can do to bring new things to the table that as soon as you get that tactile sense, or I can't say it enough, like it adds so much to horror.
It does.
I've literally slapped a Dread Jenga tower down. It doesn't matter what game system I'm running.
Yep.
The moment I want to do environmental horror and just add tension, put that down, run the rest of your rules. Every time the players take an action, pull from the tower. When it topples, the environment changes the game.
You have to have consent on everything, because I'm about to say something that we're going to be like, what the fuck? You have to have consent on everything that you do. I played a 10 Candles game where I was really tight with the group that we were playing with, and I had a severed pig's head, and we had the candles around it, and we hid clues inside of the mouth, so that
that is so tactile and gross and awesome at the same time.
It's just meat, we eat it, you know, and it was there. So we didn't eat that. So everybody was touching it. It was pretty nice.
Do you guys have any game suggestions?
Yeah, actually, so one that was on our list, which is kind of an interesting one, I think it's going to get a 3rd edition soon, is Unhallowed Metropolis, which is a kind of faux Victorian zombie apocalypse where it's been decades since the zombie apocalypse happened. London still exists, like blocked in by walls and such, and this crazy society has now formed, wherein they have to basically be constantly worried about the dead. They have these individuals that stand vigil over like nobility that have died, to try to basically like kill them before they turn into a zombie, and that kind of stuff. And the supplements for that brought in a lot of the more traditional kind of universal monster, Gothic horror and the like. So that's a really neat one, just for very evocative Gothic horror, and basically a pseudo fantasy, pseudo real setting.
If I ever knew how to pitch or like do licensing agreements better, I would totally go after Universal Pictures and be like, let me do on a horror RPG where you're actually playing with the classic monsters.
Sure. Yeah.
So anybody knows anybody at Universal?
They're not going to give that to you.
I know.
I wish they would. I wish they would give it to somebody, but
Gotta
I
throw
know
that
too
away
much
for
about
the
Universal.
cruise.
All right, and then so we have a couple more minutes left. I'm going to open up for questions. Otherwise, we can continue to talk for a couple of minutes. Yeah.
So one of the key themes of Gothic is isolation, either social or physical isolation. But I struggle with the fact that a game group is a game group of people interacting. So how do you promote feelings of isolation for 4 or 5 people at once?
Such a good question.
What?
Okay,
so I can
Everybody.
come in. I know you're pretty familiar with vampires. So there's a new supplement that just came out, and it has a couple example NPCs that seem like they're allies at first, but basically when your coterie needs them most, they just do not pick up the phone. There's that kind of guy who just ghosts out of there. So that can be a very good way to kind of help create that isolation within society, where it is like that group of players. And I'm sure, as you know, if you can just separate one character out and have them in a dangerous situation, that could be good. One thing I used in a fantasy adventure was one person, they're going through a haunted house, and there was one of those little dumbwaiters, and one of them basically got pulled into that by like a net or something. They got dragged down, and then the gremlins in the place were basically using them. They're going to cook them, basically. So that's a situation where they're isolated from the rest of the group in a dangerous situation, and you get that at least visceral immediate horror. As for the emotional isolation, that is quite challenging. Maybe someone else here has some ideas.
I do a lot of live streaming stuff, technical stuff, and again, I know some of this is a little overly complicated. It depends on how far you want to go. But a lot of this stuff is like stuff that you can get for fairly inexpensive and kind of use it in your games. I have run games where I did want to isolate people and have those like backroom conversations without having people leave the table. And I don't know if you've ever done this in a game before, where you actually, hey, let's go into this other room, talk about it, come back. It kind of breaks the rhythm. I mean, sometimes it's good because other people then are sitting there like, what are they talking about? What's going on? It doesn't matter. Like, I've pulled people out of rooms before and we talk about nothing. I'm like, okay, just go back in there and act worried. And then we go back in and we continue running the game. You don't want to do that too much because that builds like, because then that player knows that, you know, oh, if they do it with someone else, it's not a deal. This is really, I think, fun. If you can get it set up so that you can have multiple canned headphones with music playing at the same time, like soft music, something like that isn't like disruptive or something like that, unless you want something harder. But when the players are all there, you ask players at certain times to put the headphones on and to close their eyes. And while they're there, they're doing this and they're listening to the music and focusing on the music, and their eyes are closed, and then you're quietly, you know, narrating the rest of the stuff with the other players. And then you tap them on the shoulder when you're ready, and they take it off, and they have no idea what to do.
That's that was actually very close. Yes, that is a trick, and that was definitely one of my like I was going to do it too. So
yeah, well,
I
let me know
love
how
it.
Works out.
The other one, I don't know if you're like playing like tabletop classic in person, or it's, you know, on stream. On stream's easy, just kill people's cameras. But in person, this is a good trick to do if you want to make your players feel isolated. At the start of the game session, have everybody go put these in a big box somewhere, and just having people have their phones going away from them naturally makes us go, I'm in a different environment. And that you don't have to do any of the props, or you don't have to do anything else. Just take these away and put them somewhere, maybe even like up on like a shelf or something like that, where they can see them and they know they can't go pick them up. That will create a feeling of isolation among your
It's
players.
so sad that we're there as a society. You know, like that. It becomes a ritual. As soon as you take the phones away, people are in a ritualistic space. And I think that narrative role playing is like a shared experience. It's a form of a ritual conversation. These things are, the devil. The real horror is right there in our hands.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Piggyback on that, if you're doing something political intrigue-wise, you have like your enemies know things they shouldn't to break down the trust of your party. Get the players thinking in a mindset where they can't trust the other players, and that'll help kind of break them up and really kind of twist how the vibe is going.
That's a good point. I actually ran a game where I opened it up and I was like, one of you is a traitor, and like called out the player that was the traitor, and it turned out that one of the other characters was possessed. So nobody was the traitor, really, truly, but they found that out. But they did not trust each other, and that's a great point. If you can turn the players against each other, it really does build that sense of isolation.
To build off what Mike said earlier about one of the themes being secrets that are kept, just tell the players when they're making their characters, write down a secret that nobody else knows about you. Then they know that they have a secret that nobody else knows yet.
Mm-hmm.
So they know that everybody else at this table has a secret that I don't know.
Yeah, and that a secret that they don't want other people to know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Good
important.
point.
So just having something that you have to keep to yourself, you will isolate yourself.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions? No? Okay. So I'm going to let you guys, we're going to wrap up. And so I'm going to have everybody tell where you can find on social media,
Yep.
other things that are happening. So.
My name is Nox. You can find me everywhere on social media at Eaten by Potchki. I think that I'm going to be over at the Nevermore, which is a venue space that's here at GenCon. It's outside of the convention halls. It's down, I think, Capitol, and
It's by the Omni.
it's by the Omni. Yeah, so it's a restaurant. We have a couple of booths set up there. There are free game demos. We have a lot of samples available. It's a free game space. You can bring any game you want. Great food, drinks. I know we're sponsored by Voodoo Ranger, so they're doing some sponsorships if you want to come get a free beer, or if you want to come talk to me, or if you've got a game to pitch or something like that. I'll be in the space all day today. We're not open tomorrow, but we're gonna be there for the rest of the day, having a good time. So come check us out there. And if you find me online, feel free to DM me if you have questions or something horror-based is happening and you think it's interesting. I'd love to know about it.
Awesome.
So again, I'm Rick Heinz. You guys can find me online just under the name Rick Heinz on most platforms or Storytellers Forge Studios. And if you happen to be a author for novels and are looking to perhaps submit book pitches or work with us on a publication for novelizations of things that we do, we're officially accepting pitches. So just go to storytellersforge.com and reach out and email us.
I can be found on Darker Days Radio. I'm active on the Discord. Come check us out.
Yep.
We're a fun podcast.
And I'm also Mike from Dark Days. You can pick up one of our business cards up here when you drop off your ticket. That'd be really awesome. And we're going to give everybody a homework assignment after attending this panel. You should all listen to The Castle of Otranto, the original Gothic novel. I think you'll learn a lot seeing the DNA of it. You could also read it, but it's actually a lot easier to listen to, and it's free online.
And I'm Crystal Mazer. You can find me on all social media at Body and Soul 152. You can also find me for Darker Days Radio. I am going to be around. I have a website too called the geekypanda.com, which has my writer's CV on it, where you can see all of the stuff that I have written on. So thank you guys. Thank my panelists.
Thank you
so
for
much.
running the panels. Yeah.
I appreciate it. And then thank you guys so much for coming and asking questions and participating. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Hey.
I